What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video and back with another Demise format video. I've been enjoying this format a lot. It's the format based around SJC Anaheim in 2007, and it's been a blast to explore so far. Now, for people who know stuff about later GX era formats, they might realize that this format is very similar to Trooper format, which is the format that takes place later in the year after Force of the Breaker has been released, and so you have new decks like Perfect Circle Monarch running around using Ryza to spin things back and stuff like that, because the ban lists are very similar, and honestly, like Force of the Breaker doesn't really add much to the meta competitive card pool besides things like Ryza, but I still think it's fun to explore, and the main reason why we're exploring this format is because I like there to be a format for every ban list that's, happened over the course of the game's history. And so even if the format is relatively similar to Trooper format, I still think there's merits to exploring this. Now, that being said, because the format's so similar to Trooper format, I thought it'd be a neat idea to sort of try out a Trooper format deck, because people have been exploring Trooper format a little bit more in retrospect than they have Demise format, because as far as I know, we're the first community to really be exploring Demise format. So Trooper format has had the benefit of some sort of modern hindsight and, sort of deck building techniques. And I actually found this list that actually won a previous Trooper event, the LA Tin Can Cup 10. And it actually is legal in Demise format. I didn't have to make any changes to it. It didn't have Ryzas. It didn't have, things that were released after Demise format came out. So I figured, I'd give it a whirl. And of course, when adapting these sorts of things, it's not always the best practice to do that exact sort of thing because, different strategies are teched out for different meta threats. For instance, in this format, we don't have to worry about Perfect Circle Monarch as much. Monarch is still a strong deck, but it doesn't have Rise to spin things back. So, there's potentially techs in this deck that could be there just to stop that deck. But I still think it's cool to sort of look through and try and play with. And so I'm going to bring it to the games today. This is a sort of machine beat deck using the Troop Dupe Scoop strategy. So basically the idea is if you get out a card trooper, machine duplication it to bring out 2 more card troopers. That's 5,700 damage on board right there. And if you have other monsters or things like Brain Cons or Snatch Steal, to take control of your opponent's monsters, then you can just win the game on the spot. So it's a very powerful strategy if it goes through, and it sort of bolsters the Machine OTK strategy that came out in Chimeritic format. Or not came out in Chimeritic format, but it was very popular in Chimeritic format. So let's just quickly go through the card by card. Now, I didn't build this deck. That was Pana's. They built the deck. But, I think a lot of it is pretty straightforward. We got triple card trooper to pair with the double machine duplication. That's sort of the combo that you're trying to win the game off of. You got triple cyber dragon because it's a machine that pairs with overload fusion to go into chimeritic over dragon, but also just because it's a good special summon guy to just extend further. We get triple cyber phoenix to protect our machines from targeting. We've got triple Decoichi to draw deeper into our deck. We've got a Jinzo here to shut off traps. We've got a morphing jar to dig deeper into our deck as well. We got a Sangan here to search out a variety of things from our deck. We got double UFO Turtle to go into our Cyber Phoenixes here because Cyber Phoenix is very good in this deck thins for us. For the spells, we get double Brain Con to take control of our opponent's monsters. As I mentioned, if you get the Troop Dupe combo off and you Brain Con their monster, that often is enough just to win the game on the spot. We've got a Confiscation, rip a card out of their hand. We got Future Fusion to pair with Overload Fusion and go for big OTK pushes. We've got a True Nade to bounce back our opponent's stuff to insulate our plays. We got a Heavy Storm to blow away their back row. We got a Limiter Removal to just win the game off of, this makes the Troop Dupe combo just legal on its own, but even if you don't have that combo online, a lot of the times you'll be able to amass a critical mass of machines to just win through that. We got double machine duplication to duplicate our card troopers. It seems like they're not going for 3 copies because they don't necessarily want to brick on it, but they also are not going for 1 because they do want to see it over the course of the game. So I think 2 makes sense as sort of a middle ground there. We got a Mystical Space Typhoon to clear by your opponent's back row. We've got an Overload Fusion to go into our Chimeritic Over Dragon, which is another way to win the game. We got a Pot of Avarice to shuffle back cards in our graveyard into the deck and draw 2, especially when pairing this with something like Future Fusion. It can be good, but also your card troopers will be setting up the graveyard for Avarice as well. So it's very good in that case as well. We got a Premat to bring back our monster from grave. We got a Scapegoat to protect ourselves for a little bit. We've got a Snatch Steal to take control of our opponent's monsters. We've got a Call the Han to bring back our own monsters. We got a Mind Crush to pair with the triple Dust Shoot here, as well as the Confiscation. And also, there are a variety of decks in this format that do just search out cards natively. Like, think about Demise OTK searching out its ritual pieces, or, Destiny Hero decks that are searching out things like Mali, although you wouldn't necessarily want to hit Mali, but, just searching out other cards, you can then Mind Crush and take those out of the hand. We got a Mirror Force to stop aggressive pressure from our opponent. We got a Rain Destruction to blow up our opponent's monsters. We've got a Torrential Tribute to blow up the board. And again, the Triple Dust Shoot to spin things back into the deck. For the side deck, we've got a hodgepodge of different options here. We got double Death Wombat for burn. We've got Droroid, I guess, to deal with decks that are a bit more defensive. We got double Mobius to deal with back row decks. We've got a Lightning Vortex to blow away our opponent's board if we want to make a big push. We got a Nox to deal with more flip focus decks. We got triple Pulling the Rug because this is also very good against decks that are playing things like the Ritual Recruiters and also Stratos and also the Monarch decks and things like that. So this is a very good inclusion as well. We get Triple Royal to create shut off our opponent's traps, and we get double Threatening Roar to stop any big OTK pushes from our opponent. For the fusion deck, we've got triple Chimeritic Overdragon to either make off of Overload Fusion or just get a bunch of machines engraved with Future Fusion. We've got triple Cyber End Dragon here, and triple Cyber Twin Dragon, because occasionally you do just want to go into these off of Future Fusion and just get out a big guy in 2 turns. And then for the rest, I think these are just here for like meta targets, but like you don't really need any of these here. So these first 9 feud monsters are just what you're going into. But that's going to do it for the deck breakdown. Let's dive into some games and see how this deck actually performs. We got our first game here against Pobrel, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're going to dive into the games. And, if you're not subscribed to the channel already, but you like this sort of content, definitely subscribe because I've got more Demise content on the way. And it also helps grow the channel. And for a small channel like that, it really does help out quite a bit. We're going to go for a coffee to open up with because we are going first. And we've got Mind Crush to pair with the coffee. So this is just going to be a disgusting turn here. We take a peek at their hand and see that they're on a bit of a jank brew. It seems like they're on Elemental Heroes with Dim Fuse to, bring things back after a Miracle Fusion and stuff like that. But I think of these, we probably want to just take the E-Call. We could also let them use the E-Call and then Mind Crush whatever they take. But I don't necessarily want them to get Stratus in rotation. That would be like the biggest fear on my part. So I'd rather just take the E-Call here and get that out of rotation. So, but it seems like they're more on a fusion strategy, so maybe they're going to do something else instead. But we set a Dekoichi, set Call, set Mind Crush, pass back to them. And we're going to let that go through because I figure, if they do King of the Swamp to search out Poly, we go Mind Crush, call Poly. If they go like Rhoda for Stratos, like if they draw another way to get into that, we go for Mind Crush, call whatever they search. So we can sort of hold off on the Mind Crush for a little bit here, even though we know their hand. And they're going to just pass back to us here. We draw UFO Turtle, which is pretty good. We're going to go for Dekoichi flip, draw into Jinzo. I mean, that's really good. We're going to go for Mind Crush now, send King of the Swamp, or at least attempt to, but they've got a Solemn Judgment here. So we're perfectly fine with that trade because now this Jinzo can get in for 2,400 and get them out of Dimension Fusion range. I wanted to use up the Mind Crush before the Jinzo came down because Jinzo would prevent my own Mind Crush from being activated, but this is ultimately kind of a best case scenario for us here. They are going to just set 1, pass back to us. We are going to draw for turn. We draw into a Cyber Phoenix. We're just going to bring out that Phoenix just in case they've got like a Book of Moon or something to target our Jinzo. And then we're going to attack into their set monster. They're playing like pure elemental heroes, it seems, so they could be on Clayman. So I do think it's best to attack them with Jinzo. And it was a Bubble Man. So actually, if we had attacked in with Phoenix, we wouldn't have been able to win here. We could have also potentially summoned that Turtle and tried hitting over their set just in case it was something like Bubble Man. And then get in for a lethal shot with Jinzo. But, again, I think we're in a very, very good situation here. And, like, if it was Clayman, we wouldn't have been able to go for a big play there. They're just going to normal summon out King of the Swamp, which makes me very scared because it makes me think that they've got creature swap shenanigans going on here. But they're just going to go for a Miracle Fusion here. Now, if they go for Mudball Man, we actually are in kind of an awkward spot because they can just sit on that in defense. We don't have a way to deal with it right now. So that is an option they can go for, but instead they're going to go for Elemental Hero Steam Healer. So this will also keep them alive for a turn, but it's also a lot more fragile because we get to draw off this, and also we can just attack over that next turn with the Jinzo there. So, unfortunately, this doesn't quite work out well for them. We've got Giant Tornado as well if we wanted to go for that, but I think that set is Mirror Force. I think we actually know it's Mirror Force based on the contents of their hand earlier. It's either Mirror Force or Dim Fuse, and yeah, that will just be lethal damage there. So we're going to go on to the next game there. Going into game 2, I think even if they brought out Mudball Man, we've got enough inevitability with our deck that we'd eventually get through it. But yeah, it definitely would have made things a bit more complicated for us. So they're just going to start by setting 3 and then setting a monster passing back to us. So I've got the read that might be something like Morphing Jar or something here. So I'm just going to go for Sidra into Jinzo. I guess I don't have the read that's Morphing Jar. Yeah, I mean, I think I probably should have set some back row just in case. Maybe I don't want to set my own back row into like traps or something, but I don't know. It's a bit awkward here. Jinzo does shut off the ring and the Dust Shoot, but I committed them anyways because they clear the Jinzo, then I can use the ring to pop something. And if they do Heavy Storm this board, then like I'm perfectly fine with that because they lost a lot of cards as well. So they're just going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw a Comfy, which is pretty good. We can go for Trooper here, mill 3. And we're going to attack over that set monster with the Jinzo first. Again, if it's Clayman, we don't want to run into that, but it was just an avian there. So we're going to get in for 1900. Then we're going to go for Comfy here, ripping a card out of their hand. We're going to take the fake hero there. We also got to see that they've got a polymerization in hand. The reason I took the fake hero out of hand is because they can potentially do stuff like if they draw Stratos, activate fake hero, bring out Stratos, search out another card, and then they get the Stratos back in hand to then do things with that later. So kind of a neat card for decks playing Elemental Hero Stratos. I'm not sure if it's the best thing in the world, because if you don't have Stratos, which is a limited card, that's not really that good. But it's something they can play if they want to. They're going to bring out a Wild Art here attack over the Trooper. We get a draw off that. But, you know, ultimately we don't really have much else going on here. We're just going to bring out a Cyber Phoenix attack over that Wild Heart, and then attack directly with Phoenix. I mean, the impetus is on them to clear this board. I mean, we are in a perfectly fine spot. We can just keep getting in for stuff every turn. They go for E-Call here for Stratos with that art. And then they're going to summon that Stratos, get a search off, and do some stuff here. So again, this is why I didn't necessarily want to leave them with the fake hero, even though they could potentially pop off of Poly. I felt like having the fake hero and being able to reuse the Stratos is a bit rough for us. They're going to attack over the Cyber Phoenix there, get in for 600, and then we get a draw off that. And then they're just going to pass back to us. We unfortunately draw Heavy Storm, which is not quite enough here. We could potentially, now because, well, we could potentially Heavy Storm and then go for Overload Fusion and then like do stuff with that. But I feel like that's not really that good because that's only 1400 damage here. And we've just lost so much on board. So I think, again, we're in a position where like we can just sit on this Jinzo, keep attacking in, and we're going to pass back to them. So they are now at 3,400, and they're just going to pass back to us. So this means that we're in a very, very good spot here. We can't quite kill them if we go Overload plus Heavy, so I don't really need to do that. So I'm just going to attack in for 2,400 and pass back to them. They're going to set 1 and pass back to us. And we draw UFO Turtle, so that's just going to be the end of the game, yeah. Seems like they did not really have much here, just that Necro Shade, a TT, Solemn, Mirror Force, Solemn, and Fake Hero. So they did actually have a Fake Hero set, so I guess they could have done the Stratos play that I mentioned before. But I mean, ultimately, I don't really think it would have done much here. It would have needed to, I guess if you search out a hero and then get another hero next turn to poly it, then maybe you do something there. But I don't know, it would just be an awkward spot either way. And then I got Ring to clean things up afterwards. I guess they've got multiple Solemns, but still, you know, I think we're in a pretty good spot here. So yeah, I mean, this deck can definitely beat jank decks like nobody's business here. But let's see how it actually does against a bit more of a meta threat. Our next game is against No Alt Win, who is a new guest on the channel. It's actually awesome because I was just hosting on Dueling Book, just saying Demise format, just seeing if anyone would hop in. And No Alt Win reached out and asked about the format and put together a deck. So very, very cool stuff. Thanks for No Alt Win for joining me on the channel here and playing some games. So we're going to go for a Card Trooper, mill 3. We mill the Future Fusion, which would have been great with this Overload. But we're still getting machines engraved for later, so I feel pretty good about that. We're going to pass back to them. And they're going to go for a Rhoda here, searching out a Stratos here. So it seems like they're on some sort of hero deck. They're going to play a D-Draw here, drawing 2. And now they've got that Mally to go into, so they're going to go into a Mally here. And then go for D-Draw, pitch Mally, draw 2. And unfortunately, that means that they double bricked on Mally, which is kind of rough. But they still got off 1 Mally, so that's kind of cool. They go for Stratos here, search out a Diamond Dude. So they've got another Destiny Hero in hand for later. They go for Reasoning. I call 8 here because I figure, you know, if they bring out a Democ, they, 1, get back a Destiny draw 2 more. But 2, they also get to stop us from drawing a card off Card Trooper, and they make our Overload Fusion 1 card weaker. So I do just call 8 here, and they hit into a Diamond Dude. So that's kind of rough for us. They're going to go for a Rhoda here for Exile Force. Then their deck even more. They're going to go for the Diamond Dude and put that Divine Sword on the bottom of the deck. And then they're going to get in for some damage here. We take 400 off that attack. We draw with Card Trooper. They'll attack in for 3,200 more. So we drop down to 4,400 here. And then they're going to pass back to us. Now we have a couple different options here. It's a bit awkward because we don't really want to go for an Overload Fusion now. I mean, we could just special summon outside or go for Overload, get out a 2,400 Chimera Tech and beat over their entire field and do more stuff. That is an option, but I don't really think I need to do that at this point. I go for Coffee just to see what they're working with right now. See, they've got a Jinzo, an Exiled Force, a Card Destruction, a Diamond Dude, and a Divine Sword Phoenix Blade. So I take the Exile because I don't want them to deal with a monster that we might have here. And then potentially I could go for the Overload play now knowing that they don't have the Exiled in hand. But instead I'm just going to go for the Cyber Dragon here, attack over that Mally, set a True Nade and an Overload Fusion, and then set a Morphing Jar pass back to them. The reason I do this is because I know about the card destruction, and I don't want to lose the Overload Fusion or that True Nade. It's a bit risky if they draw into a heavy or something, but you just got to hope that they don't. They mill a Demock there, then go for Vortex, pitching a Phoenix Blade, and hitting our Cyber Dragon. They bring out a Destiny Hero Diamond Dude and mill a Heavy Storm. That's very scary for us because next turn they'll be able to use that. But hopefully there won't be another turn after this. So they hit over a Morphing Jar. We pitch our hand. They pitch their Jinzo. And you know, if they can't kill us here, we should be in a pretty good spot. They attack it for 14 and then 18 here, dropping us down to 200. And then they will use that Divine Sword Phoenix Blade, add it to hand, and set one pass back to us. Now, if they've got Ring of Destruction, we lose the game on the spot, but it looks like they do not, so we're feeling pretty good about this. We go for a True Nade here, and we should actually be able to win the game from this position. We go for a Trooper, and then we go for Machine Duplication to get out multiple Troopers from deck. This is just to buff up our Overload Fusion. I guess we have the third Trooper in grave, yeah. So now we'll mill 6 here, trying to get more machines in grave. Honestly, I didn't really need to do this because it's very unlikely that they're playing something like Karibo in the Diamond Dude Turbo deck, but you know, it's fine either way. I don't think this will give them like too much more information than they already had, but we're going to get attacked in with that 6400 Chimeritic Overdragon and go on to game 2. So we sort of survived by the skin of our teeth there, because if they had pitched the Jinzo instead of the Phoenix Blade, then they actually could have potentially killed us there, but they didn't know what our set was, so it made sense, in my opinion, to do what they did. But they're going to go for E-Call for Stratos and then get a Mally to hand and then pass back to us. We draw into a Snatch Steal, which is not bad because we can go for Machine Dupe here, bring out, you know, Triple Trooper, and then we could potentially snatch the Stratos and get in for a fair amount of damage. Unfortunately, that doesn't kill them though. So I don't necessarily want to do that because this is 19, 19, 19, that's 5,700 plus 1,800 is 7,500, which leaves them with 500 life points left and also Snatch Steal giving them 1,000 more life. So, you know, as weird as it may seem, I'm actually going to just save the Snatch Steal for later. I figure if we get them down low enough here, I can Snatch Steal and then potentially pull off more damage later, because I've got 3 Troopers on field right now. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Even if they attack over 1, we should be good. Unfortunately, they go for Lightning Vortex here, so they'll pitch a Mally, pop our entire field there, and we get to draw 3 off that. So, you know, we did lose our board, but we drew 3, which is always pretty good. They go for a Mally here, bringing out a Mally in defense mode, and then they're going to tribute that for a Jinzo. So now our TT is shut off. We could have TT'd the Mally, but I don't really think that would have made a difference because they just bring out another Mally because, you know, they still have a third left in deck. So there's no real point to doing that. And now they're just going to bring out that third Mally anyways. So you're going to bring that out, go for a Monster Gate on that Mally, and hit into a Card Trooper of their own. So they're able to buff that up to 1,900 by milling 3, and then attacking in for 19 plus 24, so that is 4,300 damage total. So we're down to 3,700. We're still in an okay spot. We can potentially go for Snatch Steal on the Jinzo and attack over stuff. But the awkward thing with our hand right now is that if we go Snatch Steal on Jinzo and summon up Cyber Phoenix, the Snatch Steal will actually go back, it'll be negated and the Jinzo will go back to their side of the field. So it's really awkward that it turned out this way. But because that is the case, what I ultimately decided to do is I decided to just go for Fufu here, reveal Cyber Twin Dragon, send double Cyber Dragon, and then I try and just summon out this Cyber Phoenix attack over the Trooper, deal 800, and then hope that this is enough to survive, because, you know, we're at 3,700, so even if they attack over Jinzo, that's 1,200, and then attack with something else, then that's even more damage, but we get a draw after that. We've got Snatch Steal, you know, we've got a variety of different things that we can do here, so I feel like this ultimately is a pretty good option, and Cyber Phoenix can't be taken control of by like Snatch Steal or BrainCon or something like that. So I feel like ultimately this is a pretty good plan on our part. Unfortunately, they've got Premat to go into another monster here, so they're able to bring back that Stratos there, get another search here, and they're going to search out a Diamond Dude. So they're going to Lightning Vortex, pitch a Phoenix Blade, and they've got the Diamond Dude to follow up on that too. So that's just going to be the end of the game. So I think no matter what I did there, I was actually kind of cooked, because if I go Snatch on Jinzo and then attack over Trooper, then, you know, they still have the Lightning Vortex to pop the Jinzo, and then they can bring that back with Premat, and then do stuff from there. Now, I will say, if we had set the Phoenix on that turn, like if we had Snatched on the Jinzo, then set Phoenix, and then attacked over the Trooper, maybe we would have survived that turn, and we could have potentially come back from that position to win the game. but it definitely would have been a bit tough because in this format, when Cyber Phoenix is set face down and attacked over, you don't actually get the draw there, I believe. So we're going to go into game 2 here. We got Future Fusion. I mean, that's a pretty great start. We're going to go for Cyber End Dragon, milling 3 Cybers because 1, if we draw into Overload later, there's more machines in grave for Chimera Tech, and 2, if they do decide to wall up doing things, then I figure this should be fine. I also could have gone for Chimera Tech and then pre-mounted back like something like Jinzo or something from grave, but I don't like that Chimera Tech then becomes a 2-turn clock to like blow up the field or at least our field, not their field. So I decided not to do that ultimately. I just set a Decoichi here, pass back to them. They go for a Rhoda, searching out a Stratos here, and then they're able to summon out that, before summoning out Stratos, they're going to go for a Reasoning here. Now, I saw that they were on Exiled Force in game 1, and I know that they still have Diamond Dude. I mean, I did say I don't know they have Diamond Dudes left in deck, but I figured that they probably have Diamond Dudes left in deck. So I feel like ultimately the best option to call here is 4 because it's the most common option. If they hit a Mally, then I'm fine with that, even though 6 is another common option because, Mally on board is not really that good for them. So, and if they hit Demock, they hit Demock, but that's like 1 out of however many monsters they're playing in the deck. So ultimately I decided to go for a 4 there. Unfortunately, they hit a 6 with the Jinzo, which is kind of rough, but we don't have any traps to negate anyways, so it's not the worst thing in the world for us. They go for a Stratos here, search out a Diamond Dude, get that to hand, and then they set 2. And then they'll attack into our set, and we get to draw off that, so that's pretty good. They attack in with a Jinzo of their own, and then they're just going to pass back to us. So this is now turn 1 on Future Fusion. Next turn, we actually get out Cyber End, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. We could potentially do a kind of wild play here. We could go pre-mat for a monster, tribute that for Jinzo, and then attack into their Jinzo, set Dust Shoot to then spin something back next turn. We could also go for Heavy on their back row to sort of like make that complete sort of reversal of advantage there, but I feel like that is a bit too greedy. I do want that Future Fusion to resolve on the following turn to get out Cyber End because Cyber End's really good. So ultimately what I decided to do here is go for the Card Trooper, mill 3, just get those in grave, and then attack in over the Stratos and deal 100 here. Now I am taking a fair bit from this Jinzo here next turn because they attack into the Card Trooper, deal 2,000, but they still have to deal 3,600 after that. And then I'm getting out the Cyber End off Future Fusion. So I'm not really feeling like I'm in the worst spot in the world. I also get to draw off Card Trooper when it gets into the graveyard. So, or when it's destroyed, that is. But I set the Dust Shoot here just in case they clear their own Jinzo somehow. And then I pass back to them. So they go for Diamond Dude. They unfortunately whiff on that, but they've got a Snatch Steal set. So that is really rough for us. This is just the end of the game because this is lethal damage. I was not expecting them to have Snatch Steal set. So maybe I should have gone for Heavy here. But again, I don't think that Heavy necessarily was a play that made sense with the knowledge that I had at the time. And yeah, I mean, maybe the thing I should have really done here was just Future Fusion and get a bunch of machines engraved to then set up for pre-mat later. But again, I feel like that would have been a bit of an awkward play because then the Chimera Tech comes down if I don't kill them in 2 turns. And I feel like this deck doesn't necessarily kill them within 2 turns. So yeah, it's kind of awkward there. But anyways, that will indeed be lethal just by the skin of our teeth. Because, it's just 100 over, but that's going to do it for this game. The Inks again to no alt win for play-in. And, yeah, definitely shows that Diamond Dude Turbo can be incredibly powerful if it's able to go off. And I really like the deck a lot. I think it's a very, very cool deck. So cool to see other people experimenting with it here. Next up, we've got a fun match against someone whose name I'm not sure I can say on the channel without getting demonetized, so I won't say it. But we're diving into a fun one here. And we're just going 7 out Sangan, set 2, pass back to them. I mean, this is really, really good because we get Dust Shoot to sort of see their hand, see what they're on, and shuffle the best thing back. So we see their hand, see that they are on Cyber Phoenix as well. So this might be a mirror match here. Now, as awkward as it may seem, I think I actually take the Snipe Hunter because Snipe Hunter is kind of annoying. If they pop like Mirror Force, then that's rough. If they pop Sangan, that's also rough because then that puts us at a guaranteed 4 for Dust Shoot. As of now, I do have MST to just snipe one of their back row, if they set back row, to play around the Dust Shoot. So I ultimately decided to take the Snipe Hunter there and just decide to use the Mirror Force on the Cyber Phoenix here if they bring that out in attack. And it looks like they are bringing that out in attacking, so I will just Mirror Force this to prevent the Dust Shoot from getting live. Also, this deprives them of draw later, and I tell my opponent in draw phase I'm using priority to just snipe one of their back row. I actually sniped the Dust Shoot, which is kind of funny. I would have preferred to snipe the TT instead, but, it is what it is. And ultimately, Sangan is a fine monster to have on board if there is a TT in rotation. I'm just going to set a call and then set a Brain Con, pass back to them, just to make sure that I am out of Dust Shoot range, because if they attack over this Sangan here, I get a 3rd card in hand, and then I draw 4th for turn, So if they go into another dust shoot, then that's kind of awkward for us. I guess we snipe the dust shoot, so I don't really have to play around it that way, but I think it's ultimately fine. I'm just going to go for Sangan here, attack in for 1,000. I don't need to foo-foo plus Overload Fusion yet because I know they've got TT. I'd rather wait for them to clear the TT before going for a play like that. So they're just going to pass back to us. We draw into a Card Trooper. We're going to go for Card Trooper here. They go for TT, but we did decide to declare Prio, so the mills will happen first. Honestly, I should not have milled 3, because if I milled 3 Cyber Dragon, as unlikely as that may be, then I don't actually win the game here, because I don't have anything to foo-foo anymore. So I actually should not have done this. But, you know, I'm just so used to doing, like, draw phase priority on things. But I go for foo-foo, reveal Chimera Tech, and my opponent asked for Overload, but I'm too busy looking at the deck to see that. And yeah, this will be an Overload Fusion play. So yeah, that will just be the end of the game there. And sometimes this deck wins that way. I mean, that is a way to win. If you draw into the limited cards, you will potentially be able to win and make a non-game like that. But at least it's a bit more palatable than the Cyber Stein OTKs that happened in the earlier GX era, which is a lot, you know, harder to stop and a lot more flexible. But our opponent's going to go for a comp here, rip away a Cyber Dragon. Which honestly we're not too upset about because we got Overload to like banish it and some other machines to do stuff with. We draw into Morphing Jar here, and as much as it is telegraphed, I'm just going to set the Morphing Jar, set 4. If they've got Heavy plus Knock, then, you know, GG's. It is what it is. But at least this way I do get to dust shoot them. So, you know, I do get to peek at what they're doing here. And, you know, if they do have Heavy, I then get back cards with Morphing Jar, so I think it's ultimately fine. You see they've got an Overload, a Card Trooper, a Brain Con, a Dark Magician of Chaos, and a Machine Duplication. Since they've got the Troop and the Dupe, I do want to send back that Trooper there and leave them with the DMOC in hand, even though they will get that in rotation once the Morphing Jar goes off. They flip up a Snipe Under here. I could TT the board, but they've got 4 cards in hand. I've got 4 cards on field. So I feel like it's not likely that they snipe everything on field here. They go for 1 snipe there, and they will indeed hit off that, so they'll deal with the Morphing Jar there. They go for another snipe on our Overload. They manage to hit that as well, so they'll clear that. They'll go for another snipe on our Mirror Force, and they'll manage to hit that as well. So, yeah, that's 3 in a row. It's kind of rough for us, and they'll attack in for 15. But we do have a bunch of cards that do get us, you know, sort of in a bit of a better situation here. We draw into Cyber Phoenix, and I decided to just summon out Cyber Phoenix, pass back to them. They managed to snipe pop this. They managed to snipe pop it, but I feel like it's better than just crashing in the Cyber Phoenix into the Snipe Hunter because I take more damage that way. But there is the argument that the draw is worth it. But, you know, they're just going to snipe the Cyber Phoenix, and they do indeed pull off that snipe correctly there. And now they'll attack in for 1,500, dropping us down a bit more. We draw into UFO Turtle here. So, you know, it's getting even more awkward because summon out the UFO Turtle, pass back to them because I know about the knock, so I don't want to set that. Or no, I didn't actually know about the knock. I'm just playing around knock, I guess. But either way, they pop the UFO Turtle with the Snipe Hunter. That Snipe Hunter is doing the most here. I've never seen a Snipe Hunter do that much over the course of a game. But the Snipe Hunter is just going to attack in for 15, drops down to 2k, and they're going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw a Snatch Deal here, so we're just going to snatch the Snipe, and then we're going to attack in to their set. It's a Dekoichi, so they draw another card. We're going to pass back to them. They gain 1,000. And they're going to pass back to us. We're just going to attack in for 15, and then set the Dekoichi here, and, you know, just pass it back to them, see what they do. They are going to set 1, set another, pass back to us. We draw UFO Turtle. We could go for a snipe play here, but we just want to flip up this Dekoichi, see what we get. And now we'll attack in for 14 plus 15 if this will go through. But it looks like they've got a Call the Haunt to bring back a DMOC here, which is very, very rough for us. So if we actually had tried to snipe the Call the Haunt here, we actually could have prevented this outcome from occurring because they would have had to activate Call at Chainlink 2 if they wanted to activate it at all. And then if they did that, then the DMOC would miss timing here. But we didn't do that because I figured it's better not to just waste cards from hand on something that's not a surefire chance. But, you know, when they, you know, manage to land the DMOC there, I go for the TT to blow up the board. And then I set a UFO Turtle and set a Dash Shoot, pass back to them. I activate Dash Shoot here and see that they've got a System Down, a Heavy Storm, a Brain Con, and a Limiter removal. So that means if I flip up this UFO Turtle, I just lose the game because they Brain Con plus Limiter it. So I can't really do that. And that makes it a bit awkward for us going forward. We draw into MST. We're just going to set that, pass back to them. I maybe could have held the MST because they do have Heavy Storm, but I'm also trying to bait out the Heavy Storm here. So I think it's fine to go for this. They're going to summon out a Card Trooper, attack over our UFO Turtle. We bring out a Cyber Phoenix, so that way they can't Brain Con it. And they'll pass back to us. We draw a Card Trooper of our own. We're just going to attack into their Card Trooper with our Cyber Phoenix because I figure it's a bit too much of a risk to normal summon out Card Trooper into this board. So I set the Card Trooper, pass back to them. They are going to go for a Pot of Avarice here, which is a bit rough. They're going to be able to shovel back all 5, and then if they do have an attack here, they can just heavy the board away to deprive us of any defenses here. So they're going to draw 2. They're going to go for heavy, blow up the board, and then go for Sidra, and that will be the end of the game. They're going to system down on top of it. Like, they didn't even need to do this. They could have just attacked in and limiter removal. But, you know, more power to them. And we'll go into the next game here. So, we go first in the final game. In siding, I will say also, the only thing I did in siding was I brought in a Lightning Vortex because I felt like Vortex was good against Cyber Phoenix and stuff like that. So I did bring in that, but you know, we don't really have much on the side to deal with this deck. They bring out a Cyber Phoenix, attack him for 12. We'll just let that go through because, you know, we can now bring out our own Cyber Phoenix and do stuff with that. So we're just going to special summon out that Cyber Phoenix, attack in, or not Cyber Phoenix, but Cyber Dragon, attack in over their Cyber Phoenix. They get a draw there, and then we can set a Dekoichi and pass back to them. Let's see what they do here. They're going to go for a Cyber Phoenix of their own, and then they're going to bring out a Snipe Hunter. They're trying to get sniping again. Oh, will this go the distance like last time? It will indeed pop. The Cyber Dragon was kind of rough. And now they go for our back row. And now the luck is turning in our favor this time. They roll a 6. They try and go for our monster instead. They roll another 6. And there's like, okay, I'm not risking any more on this Snipe Hunter. I'm attacking him for 3,600, and we will use that Mirror Force there. Sweet karma. You know, that's why Snipe Hunter is like kind of an iffy card, I think. Because like, yes, there are games like the last one where it just goes crazy, but there are also games like this one where like you go really minus on it, and it's just really rough. So we flip up a Dekoichi here because we've got lethal if we can clear that back row. Unfortunately, they had call, so they're able to bring back the Jinzo there, but we can brain con that Jinzo and then go for Trooper plus Duper, and that will be the end of the game. But this wasn't the only game I played against this duelist here. We actually had so much fun that we're going to play another one now. So this is match 2 against, you know, sort of the mirror. And we're going in, and we won the die roll, so we get to go first. So that's pretty good for us. This is a pretty good hand to start with. We got Trap Dash Shoot here, so we can Dash Shoot away their hand. And that is indeed what we're going to do. We're going to Dash Shoot, see that they've got a Cyber Phoenix, a Card Trooper, a Machine Dupe, a Brain Con, a Snatch, and a Future Fusion. I want to send back that Trooper because they've got the Duper in hand, so I don't necessarily want them to be able to pull that off. So I send that away. They bring out a Cyber Phoenix here, which just ties with the UFO Turtle here. And now they'll pass back to us. We draw a Cyber Phoenix, which is pretty decent. We're just going to bring out, or not Cyber Phoenix. I keep mixing up Cyber Dragon and Cyber Phoenix, but we just bring out a Cyber Phoenix from our hand and then attack directly because now they can't Brain Con, they can't Snatch. So I feel perfectly good about this. We're just going to pass back to them. Seems like they're holding that Foo-Foo for a bit, which we are perfectly fine with because it means that they're not getting too aggressive here. We get to bring out a Trooper and try and go for Prio here. They're going to TT the board away, but we do hit some pretty decent, you know, mills off the Trooper. I mean, then again, not really that decent. I guess Heavy is fine because they don't really have much back row here, but Heavy could deal with Foo-Foo. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have Prio milled, but I'm just used to Prio milling here. I decided just to set the Dash Shoot instead of going for Premat here. Because I kind of want to save the Premat for if I draw into a dupe to Premat the Trooper and do stuff with that. Or I could Premat, get back Phoenix and do stuff with that. But I see that their hand is Cyber Dragon, Morphing Jar, Brain Con, Snatch, Machine Dupe, and Foo-Foo. And so I decided to send back the Sidra because I want to force them into setting that Morphing Jar. Because we can actually, you know, sort of pretty profitably, you know, use that Morphing Jar. If they set a bunch of back row, we Trunate it back to hand, special summon out Sidra, summon Cyber Phoenix, commit our Premat to board, and then we can do stuff with that. They're now going to go for their Foo-Foo, though, sending 2 Cyber Dragons to go into a Cyber Twin in a couple turns. But, you know, we should be in a pretty good spot in a couple turns. I actually think, I don't think we could have gone for lethal here, although we do have Premat plus Trunates. We could have brought back Double Trooper, 38 plus 12 is not quite it. So, yeah, we couldn't go for lethal here, but we should be able to go for lethal next turn. So we set the Dash Shoot, go for Dash Shoot yet again. We've just been drawing all the Dash Shoots this game. I think, again, we're going to send back that Cyber Phoenix because, you know, we want them to use the Morphing Jar. I'm perfectly fine with them using the Morphing Jar here and then us, you know, plussing off the Trunade and stuff like that. But it looks like they're not going to commit that to field. So now we should be able to win the game. We go for a Premat here. We bring out a Card Trooper. We go for a Trunade here, bounce everything back to hand. We go for the Trooper just in case we mill something good, but we don't even need that. We go for a Premat here, and we bring back the Sidra. So we are going to go for this, but even if we had to just bring back the Trooper, it still would have been lethal damage here, because now we can summon the Sangan and get in for lethal damage. So worked out pretty well for us there. We're going to go into game 2, but now our opponent is starting, so that makes things a bit awkward for us here. So they are going to go for a Foo-Foo here, reveal Cyber Twin, send double Sidra to Grave there. And then they're going to set a dash shoot. It's fine. That was a misclick, but they're going to use it first thing anyways. So they will be able to send back the Cyber Phoenix and know our entire hand, which is kind of awkward for us. We go for a coffee to, sort of, give them a taste of their own medicine, get a peek at their entire hand. So they've got a Snatch, a Cyber Phoenix, a Premat, and a Machine Dupe. I actually decided to get rid of the Snatch here because I'm trying to think about the next couple turns. And I'm thinking, okay, I want to potentially TT when they bring out a Cyber Twin Dragon here, and then I want to bring out my own Cyber Twin. And if they snatch my own Cyber Twin, then that's going to be really bad for us, especially if we can't actually get lethal with the Cyber Twin of our own. So I'd rather just, have the Cyber Twin online here. Yes, they can potentially pre-map back their own Cyber Twin, but then they're using up that powerful card to just remove our Cyber Twin instead of taking our Cyber Twin. So ultimately, I am fine with this. But I go for the Future Fusion, sending double Sidra, and then sending a TT, passing back to them. That's one counter on the Fufu. We draw into a UFO Turtle, which is really good here. I decided to set the UFO Turtle. I could have potentially just summoned it out and attacked, but that is potentially a lot of damage off that Cyber Twin. So I decided not to do that, but I think in hindsight, I actually should have, because I'm getting out of Cyber Twin on my own in a couple turns, or actually not even in a couple turns, but in one turn. And if I go for, just attacking in with the UFO Turtle to deal 1400, then that gets them close to a lethal threshold. So I think I probably should have done that in hindsight, but as is, I'm going to let them summon out Cyber Twin. I'm not going to use TT here because I do have a way to block off the Cyber Twin, and I can also Snatch Steal that Cyber Twin away if they don't commit the Phoenix. And if they commit the Phoenix, then I can go for a TT here. So they're going to go for the Phoenix there. I go for the TT here. I actually think in hindsight, I shouldn't have done this. And the reason is because if I bring out my Cyber Twin of my own next turn, I can just crash over the Phoenix, crash into the Cyber Twin, and then get in for 14 with the UFO Turtle. If they go for Premat on the Cyber Twin on a later turn, then I can go for TT, or I could just leave the UFO Turtle up. So I think either way, it made sense for me not to go for TT here. But I was thinking, okay, if I draw into a good monster here to just go for lethal, I can potentially do that. But unfortunately, I draw into another Brain Con. At least I've got a lot of ways to take control of their stuff if they don't have the Cyber Phoenix up. And I can get in for 5,600 here. So I'm going to pass back to them. They are going to go for a Premat to bring back the Cyber Twin, which was properly Fusion Summoned because Future Fusion is a Fusion Summon, not just a Special Summon. So you can bring this thing back because it just is a Fusion Summon of this card. Must be done with the proper materials. So they're going to attack into our Cyber Twin Dragon with theirs, and then they're going to go in for 12 with that Cyber Phoenix, and Cyber Phoenix does block off everything in our hand. We draw into a Heavy Storm here, which is not going to do much. We're going to set the Heavy, pass back to them. They get in for another 12 with the Phoenix here, and then they're going to set another, pass back to us. We draw into a Dekoichi. Now we've got two options here. We could just summon out Dekoichi, attack over Cyber Phoenix, give them a draw, but deal 200. But I think, given that they might be on UFO Turtles of their own, and given our hand, I kind of want to just draw into better stuff. So I go for Heavy here just to see what they're working with. And then I set a Dekoichi, set a Brain Con, pass back to them. This might be a mistake, though. And they bring out Snipe Hunter, so it seems like it very much might be a mistake. Because they pop our monster here, and they get in for almost lethal damage. They will, unfortunately for them, miss. But then they still got another roll with that Snipe Hunter, and this one does indeed hit. So they're able to attack in for 29 plus 12, so that'll be 4,100 total. And now I'm in a really bad spot. I can snatch their Snipe Hunter, so that's something at least, but they've got Limiter, so that'll just be the end of the game. So yeah, unfortunately, we weren't quite able to do it there. But, it was a pretty good game, and I think if I had played it a little bit differently, it could have turned out differently, right? If I had done stuff like holding the TT longer, then maybe things would have turned out differently. But as is, I think we played that game pretty well. This game, I did not play pretty well, though. I'm just letting you in for a warning there right off the bat. So I set this Mind Crush. I kept in Mind Crush because, the first couple games, I was just dash shooting them left and right. So I was like, well, okay, Mind Crush seems like a good card to keep in. But this game, it actually leads me to a fatal error. So they're just going to set a monster, activate Fufu, reveal Cyber Twin, mill 2 for that Cyber Twin, and then just pass back to us. I have a couple options here. I could snatch their Sidra, summon out Jinzo, attack into their set, and do stuff with that. I could also just heavy the board right now, or I could just summon out Cyber Phoenix and attack in. I'm going to decide to summon out the Cyber Phoenix and then set a Heavy Storm, set a Scapegoat, and attack in to their set, just in case it is a Morphing Jar. They're going to widespread ruin that, though, so they're going to stop that Cyber Phoenix attack, which is a bit awkward for us, but not the end of the world. But again, if I'd gone for Heavy here, I wouldn't have had to worry about that, so it's kind of rough. And also, if I'd gone for Snatch Steal on the side or summon out Jinzo, I wouldn't have had to worry about that either. But they'll attack in with the Sidra here, and we'll just Scapegoat that to protect our life points a bit. They're going to just attack over one of the tokens, then set one more, pass back to us. We draw a UFO Turtle. And now the Cyber Twin's coming out next turn, so I could Heavy Storm this. I could Heavy Storm and then go for some big plays like snatching the Sidra into Jinzo, into attacking one of their sets and do all that stuff. And that would be pretty fine, right? But I decided to get a bit greedy. I'm like, well, I've got Heavy in future turns to blow up the Future Fusion if they commit another back row to it as well. I've got UFO Turtle to wall up a bit in case they, attack through all our tokens and the UFO Turtle. So I figure ultimately we are safe doing this, and I can wait on the Heavy to, make sure I don't have to waste my Mind Crush and make sure I get more value than just a 1-for-1 trade. So they bring out the Cyber Twin now, and here is the fatal error. I forgot that Cyber Phoenix will stop the Future Fusion from destroying the Cyber Twin if you activate Heavy at that point. They didn't need to have a Morphing Jar there, so we do lose our powerful cards in hand as well. And now things are just going from bad to worse here. So on res, we just go for Mind Crush, call Lightning Vortex, because I'm like, if they've got Vortex, it's lethal. And I'm playing Vortex, at least I'm bringing that in against their deck, so they might be bringing it in against mine. I don't necessarily want to, lose to this. And unfortunately, we get to see their hand. See, they don't have a Vortex, but they do have a lot of other good stuff like Ring Destruction and the like. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be rough for us. This is probably unwinnable at this point. But, I think if I had played the Heavy a bit better, used it before the Cyber Twin came down and before they were able to set up their Cyber Phoenix, and just gotten a little bit more aggressive earlier on in the game, things could have turned out very differently here. But as is, we are in a bit of a tough spot. They're going to attack into our UFO Turtles with their Cyber Twin Dragon, and we're going to bring out a Cyber Phoenix here. But unfortunately, they still have those attacks off the Cyber Twin. So, yeah, things are not looking good for us here. We draw into a Sidra, so that can at least be used to beat over something that they've got. But they've got this Dust Shoot here to then send back the Sidra. And now we don't have anything that can beat over what they've got. So this is just lethal on the next turn. And yeah, rough stuff, because I think, as I mentioned, I could have potentially actually sort of saved this game if I had used the Heavy at a different timing and not cared as much about my Mind Crush. But, that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you get greedy with this sort of stuff. And, yeah, it's just going to be the end of the game. Even if I call back something from Grave, I don't really have anything to protect me here. The thing that staves off the most damage is either UFO Turtle or Jinzo, but neither of those actually prevents me from winning the game. So that's going to be the end of match 2. But of course, we won a match, we lost a match. So we decided to go for the match 3, the ultimate tiebreaker here. And we did win the RPS yet again. So we are able to go first here, and hopefully that'll be good enough for us to win the match. I mean, this is a really good hand to start with. Okay, this is a supreme hand to start with. We're going to go for a card trooper here. Mill 3, set a Call of the Haunted, set an MST, pass back to them. I honestly could have even not milled here because, if I milled a card trooper, that'd be kind of awkward. But if I milled card trooper, I've got the Call of the Haunted to bring it back. So it's not the worst thing in the world. So I think it's honestly fine to take that risk, but I could have just left it there and not done anything with it. But they're going to attack in over our card trooper with that Sangan. We get a draw here. And they're going to set 1, pass back to us. We will MST that back row in the end phase, because I think we probably should have lethal here, potentially. Well, now we definitely have lethal here. We're going to go for Sidra, and then we call the Haunted back that trooper. We're going to machine dupe that trooper, get out 2 more troopers from deck, and then we got BrainCon plus these troops. And we're just going to copy just in case they've got a Karibo in hand. Looks like they do not. So, yeah, it doesn't even matter here. So that's just going to be the end of the game here. Yeah, I mean, rough stuff. Sometimes this deck draws like that, and it can just blow the opponent out of nowhere. So that's something that you have to keep in mind if you're playing with or against this deck. You got to sort of prepare for those sorts of instances. But we're going to be going second here. They're going to T-set, pass back to us. We draw a Mind Crush, but they've got a Dust Shoot, so that's kind of awkward for us. But we get Dust Shoot plus Mind Crush on the follow-up, so I'm feeling pretty good about that overall. We go for a trooper here, Mill 3. And then we're just going to set 2 and attack into what might be a Morphing Jar, which is why we do this. Probably not a Morphing Jar, given that we got 4 cards in hand. But we were planning on setting the Dust Shoot and the Mind Crush anyways, so it doesn't really change our timing if we set it now or later, especially given that they know what cards we have here. We go for a Dust Shoot, get a peek at their hand, see that they've got a pretty good hand there. We got to send back the Morphing Jar, but they've got a Machine Dupe, they've got a Widespread, they've got Fufu, MST, and Trap Dust Shoot. So yeah, it's kind of awkward for us here, and we go for the Mind Crush to send the Fufu because we don't want them getting a bunch of machines in grave. Yes, we've got Heavy for it on the crackback, but like them setting up a bunch of machines in grave really does deck thin for them a lot, and I don't really like that as much. We draw Overload Fusion, which is pretty good. We go for Heavy here, just to clear away their back row, even though we have inklings as to what it is. And we mill 3 not really good ones, but now we can just attack in for 19 with the Card Trooper here. And just in case they draw into a trooper of their own, we're going to set a Morphing Jar and an Overload Fusion pass back to them. Because if they do draw a trooper of their own, that's going to be a lot of damage coming down the pipeline for us here. And I'd rather have this Defender here. If they draw something other than trooper, then they can attack in the Morphing Jar, replenish their resources. But we're also replenishing our resources, so I don't really think it's the worst thing in the world. The unfortunate thing is this plays into their MST, but we'd probably be losing that Overload Fusion anyways off of this Morphing Jar. And it looks like, yeah, they're just going to go for the troop dupe play here because they did draw into the trooper. So I'm very glad I set another line of defense for myself here. But they're going to mill 9 to grave. At least Overload Fusion's gone, so I'm very happy about that. The nice thing about facing this style deck is that you do know a lot about what, you don't have to play around in the future. Because, for instance, we saw them mill a Mirror Force there, so we don't have to play around Mirror Force in the future. So if we do get a future turn, which it looks like we are going to do, then we can be in a pretty good spot here. They're going to copy, get a peek out of our hand, and they're going to go for the limiter removal, which I think makes a lot of sense. Because as is right now, we got Sidra plus UFO Turtle plus limiter removal. And that's going to add up to a lot of damage. So they probably want to, mitigate that cost, if at all likely. They're going to go for a Mind Crush here, call Sidra, get those Sidras out of our hand, which is pretty good for them. And we're going to go for UFO Turtle, pre-map back a Cyber Phoenix here. And that may seem a bit weird. But the reason I do this is because I don't want the monster equipped to the pre-mat to die if the pre-mat's gone. I could have gone Cyber Phoenix and then pre-mat back the Sidra, but then if they attack over the Cyber Phoenix, because I'm only clearing 2 of their troopers, then if they've got like another thing to clear the pre-mat, then the Cyber Dragon will be gone. So it is kind of awkward, but I ultimately decided to do this. It's less damage, but I think this is the more resilient board. So they're going to get in, or we're going to get in for 1800. They do draw 2, and we'll pass back to them. They are going to go for a Cyber Phoenix of their own, mill 3 here. Oh, that's the Mirror Force. Okay, they hadn't milled Mirror Force before, but now we can not play around it. I knew at some point they milled Mirror Force here, because at some point I stopped worrying about it. So they're going to attack into our Cyber Phoenix with their Cyber Phoenix, though. We both draw a card here. And then they're going to set 1 pass back to us. We draw a Brain Con, so that actually might be the end of the game. We go for a Trooper here. We go for Brain Con, and this should be it because they don't have Mirror Force here. They could potentially have another widespread to blow up one of these Troopers. But I think either way, we do want to go for this amount of damage here. So we're going to mill 3, and then try and get in for 5,200. Yeah, and that'll be the end of the game there. So yeah, we did manage to do that. And yeah, again, like Ring was gone, Mirror Force was gone. I didn't have to play around those. Once I summoned out the Trooper and they didn't TT, I didn't have to play around that. So yeah, very, very good stuff for us here. Let's say with just a bluff True Nade. And yeah, they didn't really have much else in hand, just a bunch of monsters that wasn't really of use to them in this situation. So very, very cool games with this deck. I like this deck a lot. I think it's really cool. I mean, it does have some issues. For instance, like, as you saw against DDT, the ceiling of the deck is not as high as other decks in the format. I think DDT does have a higher ceiling, especially given in this format, there are triple Magical Stone Activation, unlike in Trooper format, so that makes the deck a little bit better there. But I do think that this deck is still very good, and as you've seen, it can definitely end games out of nowhere, just through the power of its cards and combos. So it is a very, very good deck overall, and I think it's a fun one to play in this format, so I'm excited to see how it does in future events. But what do you think about this deck? Do you think that I'm overhyping it a bit, and that's actually not that good, or do you think that this format should actually be called Trooper 2, because it's just, more troop dupe scoop shenanigans? Let me know down in the comments below. I look forward to talking with y'all as always. As always, big shout out to my patrons, Rinswin, Porkchip, Bren Knocker, Tyler Compton, GeoMyFest, Dump Truck, and Scout Zero. It means a lot that y'all support me this way. Encourage me to make more videos like this one in the future. If you want to play games in this format or any other format that I feature on the channel, head on over to the YGF from Zero Discord server, linked in the description down below. Leave the video a like, comment, subscribe, etc. It really helps us grow more as a community and as a channel. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGF from Zero, and I'm signing off.